Hello everyone. In this video, we shall discuss quadratic equations or solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So let's recall first that the quadratic equation follows the form of a times x squared plus b times x plus c is equal to 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers and a should not be equal to 0 because this term will become 0 and the equation will be reduced to a linear equation. Now, what is the quadratic formula? Okay, the quadratic formula is actually derived using this quadratic equation and using the completing the square method. So in the completing the square method, we are supposed to divide both sides of the equation by the coefficient of x squared, which is in this case is a. So therefore, the left-hand side of the equation will now become x squared plus b over a times x plus c over a is equal to 0. And then we shall transpose the constant term. So we get x squared plus b over a times x is equal to negative c all over a. Okay, and then we're going to add something to both sides of the equation by completing the square. So which means we're supposed to get the coefficient of x, so which is b over a. So b over a should be divided by 2. So this will be b over a multiplied by 1 half. So this gives us b over 2 times a. And then b over 2 times a will be squared. And this will give us b squared over 4 times a squared. So this will be the term that will be added to both sides of the equation. So in the left side, we add that quantity and also in the right-hand side of the equation. And then in the left side, now this is a perfect square trinomial, so we can factor it as the square of the binomial x plus b over 2 times a. And then the right-hand side, now we shall combine it into a single fraction where the LCD is 4 times a squared. So 4a squared divided by a will be 4 times a, and you multiply it to negative c, so we get negative 4 times a times c, plus 4a squared when divided by 4a squared is 1, and 1 multiplied to b squared is b squared. So therefore, we can rewrite this as x plus b over 2a quantity squared is equal to b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 4a squared. And then we shall use the square root property to solve for x plus b over 2a. So this will give us positive negative of the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 4a squared. And then we shall transpose positive b over 2a from the left side to the right side. And this will give us x is equal to negative b over 2 times a plus minus. For the right side, now we simplify this as the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And then combining these two as a single fraction, then we get x is equal to negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So this is our quadratic formula. So in solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula, we need to write the problem in standard form first and identify the coefficients a, b, and c. Once we know the coefficients a, b, and c, we can just substitute them into the quadratic formula to solve the values of x. Okay, so let's have an example. So let's solve for the quadratic equation x squared minus 2x minus 15 is equal to 0. So this is in standard form, and A is equal to 1, and then B is equal to negative 2, and then C is equal to negative 15. So since we're solving for x here, we are solving for x, so x is equal to negative of b plus minus the square root of b square minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So plugging in the values of a, b, and c, we will get negative of negative 2 plus minus the square root of negative 2 quantity square minus 4 times positive 1 multiplied by negative 15. And then all over 2 times 1. So now simplifying the numerator and the radicand, so negative of negative 2 is positive 2 plus minus the square root of negative 2 quantity square is 4. And then negative 4 multiplied to positive 1 and then multiplied to negative 15 will be positive 60. All over the product of 2 and 1 is 2. So therefore, we can simplify this as 2 plus minus the square root of 64 all over 2. And we know that square root of 64 is positive 8. So we get 2 plus minus 8 all over 2. And then therefore, we can split this into two solutions of x. So we get 2 plus 8 over 2. And then the other one is x is equal to 2 minus 8 over 2. So this will give us 2 plus 8 is 10, 10 over 2 is 5, while 2 minus 8 is negative 6, and negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. So our solution for this quadratic equation is positive 5 and negative 3. Okay, for our second example, we have 2x squared plus 8 times x plus 7 is equal to 0. So again, this quadratic equation is in standard form. So we can write it as a equals 2, b equals 8, and c is equal to positive 7. So using the quadratic formula, so since we're solving for x, then we have negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So plugging in the values, we get negative of 8 plus minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times 7 all over 2 times 2. So simplifying this fraction, we get x is equal to negative 8 plus minus the square root of 64. And then the product of negative 4 times 2 times 7 is negative 56. All over 2 times 2, which is 4. And then 64 minus 56 is 8. So we get x is equal to negative 8 plus minus the square root of positive 8 all over 4. But square root of 8 now can be written as 2 square root of 2. So if we're going to extract some of the perfect squares of perfect factors or perfect square factors of 8, we're gonna get 2 square root of 2. So we have here x is equal to negative 8 plus minus 2 square root of 2 all over 4. And then we can factor out 2 in the numerator. So in here, we can write this as 2 times negative 4 plus minus the square root of 2 all over 4. So 2 will cancel out, and then the 4 here will become just 2. So we have x is equal to negative 4 plus minus the square root of 2 all over 2. So our solution for this quadratic equation is x is equal to negative 4 plus square root of 2 over 2 and negative 4 minus square root of 2 over 2. And then for our last example here, we have x squared minus 4x plus 5 equals 0. So again, this is in standard form where a is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 4, and c is equal to 5. So writing again the quadratic formula, it's negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. And the negative b here will be negative of negative 4 plus minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5 all over 2 times 1. So here we have negative of negative 4, which is positive 4, and then plus minus the square root of negative 4 quantity square will be positive 16. And then we have the product of negative 4, positive 1, and positive 5. So the product will be negative 20 all over 2 times 1, which is 2. Now 16 minus 20 is negative 4. So we're getting 4 plus minus the square root of negative 4 all over 2. But square root of negative 4 is an imaginary number, so we can write it as 4 plus minus 2 times the imaginary number I. So recall though that I is equal to the square root of negative 1. And then we have over 2. And then since both of these terms in the numerator are divisible by 2, then we can write this as just 2 plus minus the imaginary number I. So this is the solution for our quadratic equation. Okay, so this ends the video about solving quadratic equations using quadratic formula. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you can subscribe into my YouTube channel. Thank you.